Chapter 10. The Fisher King. Oh, is he going to make another appearance? That's always a good sign when the chapter starts with this music. I didn't sleep well. I kept waking, then falling back into fitful sleep. I didn't have any dreams that I remembered. Just off and on moments of clarity and wakefulness through the night. At some point, I jolted into consciousness, my heart pounding. Staring at the ceiling, I at first thought it was the same as the dozens of other times I'd awakened, but no. Something woke me up this time. There was a soft shuffling somewhere in the room. I'd been aware of it in my sleep as well. It took a moment to realize Jack was gone. I think that's him? Instantly alert, I sat up, realizing his silhouette was nearby. He was shuffling around in the dark. That's what I heard. Jack? My hoarse whisper felt loud in the bleak silence, and no response came. He was moving towards the door, so I swung my legs over the side of the bed, watching him with apprehension. Jack, did something happen? No answer. Jack? Oh dear, he's got the eyes. That's scary. This time, his head turned towards me, the line of his cheek catching faint light from the window, and I saw the soft yellow gleam of his eyes in the dark. I jumped to my feet in alarm, focusing my Psi on him. Oh my. Well... No! I saw them right away, thin ribbons of Psi running through his body like a nervous system. A tiny sliver of the violet energy trailed from him and out the door. It was him. He was trying to take Jack. Talking I don't think is gonna work. I mean, shouldn't you just have to touch him and that's that? Right? I mean, we're not flexible, so it's either this or this. And I don't think that one would work anyway. I mean, the whole point of this route has been, like, we go in solo. we do things ourselves. Tackle him! Jack, stop! I didn't expect him to respond to that, but I had to try talking before more extreme measures. I'm like, to heck with talking. Tackle the boy. When he didn't even look at me and instead headed towards the window, I dashed to him. I wasn't even thinking. I threw myself at him, latching onto his waist and wrapping one leg around his knees. Get him, girl! I wasn't exactly a wrestler, but that was enough to send him staggering to the ground with a heavy crash. His thrashing around as he tried to twist out of my grip was sure to wake up the people in the nearby rooms. That might be for the best. I held on as tight as I could while he struggled, trying to claw my arms off him. Ow. I took an elbow straight to the jaw, and for a terrifying moment, my vision went dark and my grip loosened. By some miracle, I clung to him as he struggled to his knees.
He's... calling. He's...
Damn it! Rage warmed the pit of my stomach at the mention of that bastard. I focused in on Jack's Psi as best as I could under the circumstances, enveloping him in a loose cage. The violet Psi invading his body flickered as I increased the density of the shield to try to sever the threads. I'd never consciously done this, so my only option was to experiment. Focusing on his Psi meant focusing less on my grip. I let out a cry as Jack twisted my wrist. He flung me off, and the back of my head slammed into the floorboards as he got to his feet. Gritting my teeth, I struggled to right myself. I reached a hand to him as I imagined my Psi as a sharp blade I could sweep through the invading violet light threaded through his body. And I strengthened the shield all at once. Nice! Good job, girl! Man, that was tense. The threads snapped and Jack staggered again, nearly hitting the floor. He caught himself on the window ledge and stood without moving for several seconds. I picked myself up, breathing hard and readying myself to tackle him again. The remnants of violet Psi in him took a bit to dissipate. Jack was still the entire time. Outside, the other tenants were moving around.
Morgan?
His voice was hesitant, confused. But when he looked at me, the strange glow in his eyes was gone. All the tension in my body evaporated. "You're back!" I threw my arms around him, half sobbing in relief. He held me awkwardly, as if he wasn't quite certain what to do.
What happened?
He tried to take you. I was a blubbering mess by that point, so it was lucky Jack even understood what I said. I broke the connection, but he tried to take you. There was a rapid knock on the door and a voice calling out. For a moment, neither of us knew how to answer. Jack gave me a tight squeeze.
I'll take care of that. You, get some clothes on. We probably need to wake the others and come up with a better solution than what we've got going on right now. If you hadn't been here...
I nodded against his chest as he hugged me. The person outside called to us again, and I scrambled into the bathroom to get dressed as Jack went to calm everyone down. How do you calm down after that?
You said you saw him manipulating Jack's nanosystem, Morgan.
I think so. There was a web of invasive psi threading through his entire body on a very small scale. And it was the same color as Kesa.
So, technokinesis most likely, not biokinesis. I don't know if we should be relieved or not. The thought of someone actually being able to control minds and bodies is terrifying, but controlling the nanosystem isn't much better. And you don't remember anything, Jack.
It's not that I remember nothing at all. Rather, it's like trying to remember a dream. It was a weird experience. Like hearing someone call out for me. I couldn't just ignore it either. I needed to find that voice. I needed to follow.
That's exactly how I felt that night as well. It's like the Pied Piper. I said the words more to myself than anyone else, but Jack gave me a curious glance.
The what now?
The Pied Piper. It's an old Earth fairy tale.
Ah, a reference to some old Earth thing. How shocking.
I studied Earth history and some of its mythologies and stories. I can't help it. Anyway, it's a story about a man who lures children away from their homes with a magic flute. When he plays, they're compelled to follow him.
I swear you know the weirdest facts.
You come across a lot of random information when you're doing research. Sometimes it just sticks.
The big question is, why is he focusing on us?
I didn't mention this yesterday because there wasn't a good time to bring it up. I was planning to mention it today anyway. Jack, I looked into the last entry of the journal.
Journal? That thing you've been reading since you got here.
Yeah, that's the one.
I take it there was something there.
There was. I gave Carrie and Celeste a brief rundown of the journal and what it contained, and how it was written, well, for me. They were a little skeptical at first, which was understandable.
Sylvia may not have been as strong as other queens in some ways, but she had a unique way of using sight-based abilities.
And it sounds like she viewed Psi in a way that was more flexible than most. Things that may have helped her achieve unusual things.
Well, it's not like I haven't seen weird things before, though I admit something like this is a first. What did that last entry say? It was some kind of message for you.
Not a message... exactly. It was more of a catalyst for initiating a... connection.
A connection? What kind of connection?
With Sylvia. In the past.
You met Sylvia!
You connected with her. How is that possible?
Well, to use her words, I was looking back at the same time she was looking ahead. And we met in the middle somewhere.
Holy hell.
Yeah. Look, I get that it sounds improbable, but it happened.
And? What then?
I told them everything Sylvia had said when we connected. What she saw about the man we've been dealing with all this time. Who he was. His past. We'd already worked out part of it, that he was a victim of experimentation. The clone part was additional information. Yeah, and I did some calculating, and if my calculations were correct, based on what Morgan said, it seems like... So if the 1400 years she was referring to was Earth years, then it would be... How did it... What was my calculation? If it was 1400 years after the Rosetta Stone was found, give or take, it would be like the 33rd century, rather. Somewhere around there. But if it was going by Arcalis years, then it would only be about 933-ish years after the Rosetta Stone, so it would be the 27th century. So it's either the 27th century or the 33rd century on Earth, give or take, if my calculations were correct. So this guy, if he was contacting Sylvia from the 21st century, there's no way he was still alive in the 27th century at the earliest, unless he was a fairy. Let's say fairies were still a thing in this universe. Or he was put in stasis of some kind and was awoken later in time. Like he was transported as like a Khan situation from Star Trek, if you will, and has reawoken now. But considering Sylvia said he was a clone, I'm gonna go operate off the theory that she was right, he's a clone, unless proven otherwise. So there you go. Just had a little tidbit there.
It's no surprise Nyx was working on cloning Espers. I've heard there have been successes, but they're few and far between. Esper clones don't always have the exact abilities of the original host. Often they aren't as strong. Sometimes they aren't even the same rank.
So that could be the case with Jack's sister, if she's a clone. The one we saw. She's at least a knight, if not a queen again. And can teleport. So, meh. Sylvia said the original host was extremely powerful. Powerful enough he could reach from the 21st century to her present and make contact with her. From what we've seen, this clone is also incredibly powerful. We're not dealing with just some Esper. This guy is more dangerous than we realized. But even if that's true, he hasn't hurt any of us yet. And he could have. 100 times over from what I've seen.
Doesn't make me like him anymore.
No, it doesn't. But it makes me wonder if maybe we shouldn't be aiming at a confrontation, but maybe just contact. Just talking to him. If he doesn't want to hurt us, he might be able to be reasoned with.
I don't think this guy wants to talk.
Maybe not. But we can't punch someone we can't find.
Then we need to find him.
We also can't punch someone that's way stronger than we are.
Maybe the rest of us can't, but you might be able to.
I'm not so sure about that.
You're 3 for 3 right now. You pulled yourself out of his control, Rory, and now Jack. That's true. 2 of them might have been flukes, but Jack wasn't. I think it's clear you can sever this guy's connection to people. As long as you think you can repeat what you did with Jack.
I should be able to, as long as this guy doesn't change his strategy.
That's something to be grateful for.
I agreed, though Jack didn't look happy about it. But severing connections wasn't the same as being able to go head-to-head with someone to protect everyone else. I would do whatever was in my power, though. And I would succeed, because what other option did I have? Uh-oh. Everybody, make way. Veli's arrived. Look out. Kesa and Veli arrived a little while after our conversation. My first time meeting Veli didn't really go how I planned. He wasn't what I expected. He burst into the lobby, demanding to know what we were doing to find Rowan. He was ready to tear the place down to find him, and, to be honest, I sympathized. Kesa came in behind him, also wanting an update on the situation. That meant explaining what had happened earlier, which sent Veli into another frenzy, this time aimed at me. Shock of shocks.
If you're so good at this, why did Rowan wander off? Why didn't you stop him? She stopped me because she saw me leaving. Rowan climbed out his window in the middle of the night. How the hell was she supposed to see that? She saw you.
Oh, I'm sorry, would you rather I have slept with your boyfriend as well?
Because we're sleeping in the same damn room. She can't sleep with everyone in Cordis. I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Why? Why would you? Veli, you crazy, man. The exasperation was palpable on Case's face as he bit back a sigh. I knew exactly how he felt. I don't think debating my sleeping arrangements is going to benefit the current conversation.
No, but debating why you're so keen to help some members of Cordis and not others will. That's not how things work here.
Do you think I wouldn't have stopped Rowan if I knew someone was trying to take him?
Would you?
Yes. Rowan is my friend. Of course I would. If I could find him right now, I'd do everything in my power to get him back.
Then why haven't you found him yet? You're a queen rank. Are you telling me you can't even do that much?
If I could, I would have already.
Enough, Veli. Throwing blame is pointless. The task at hand is finding our missing people, not fighting with each other. You said you found out more about him. A bit, yes. The records were wiped, but it was a sloppy job. I was able to recover some of them. I don't know if he did it himself or if those in charge of the project did it. I still don't know too much about him. Project Lazarus was classified, and they were as careful with their records as you'd expect.
Lazarus, eh? Back from the dead. So he could have been in stasis. Either he was in stasis, or cloned, and brought back to life that way. An interesting name. Oh, and he also has a name. Great. Wonderful.
The name he uses now is Brennan Raw. He took it up after leaving the lab. While he was there, of course, he had no name. From what I could discern from the remaining files, the goal was to clone a 21st century Esper named William Lee.
Get out of town! Get out of town! Not my boy William, not sweet William. No. Oh no! I'm so sad. I'm so sad. Oh no! Okay. This is great. I love it.
I tried to find more information about him, but so far I have only bits and pieces.
That information corroborated my experience with the journal and the conversation I had with Sylvia. We had shared that information with Kesa and Veli earlier as well.
If your experience was true, we can assume William was most likely what we'd call a queen rank as well.
Yeah? Man, that like blew my mind. I'm like, I almost want to go back and replay Changeling with like that mindset in mind. But, so wait, is that implying that William talked to Sylvia? Is that... And why did he look so far into the future? I really desperately actually kind of want to go back and replay William's route. That is crazy. Okay, let's go.
And right now, it looks like all the information I found aligns to the information you received from... whatever it was you experienced reading that journal.
A powerful queen-rank Esper.
Most likely F-class, or what we'd classify that way. I think we'd have to assume that given there was no nanites involved in his development. And his abilities don't align with our normal classification system.
An F-class queen.
Until my appearance, there were no known F-class queens. So it was no wonder someone had wanted to try to clone this guy when they learned about him. I'd give a lot to know how they dug up his records and how they acquired his genetic blueprint in the first place.
How did they clone someone from the 21st century?
Exactly what I was thinking.
William Lee was born at a time when Espers weren't well known. From what I gathered, he was taken in by a government agency at a very young age and studied during that time. That Earth nation was the same one that launched the third caravan. As you know, all the caravans carried with them vast repositories of information from Earth. Much of it gathers dust, but for anyone who finds the time to scour for anything useful, there are occasional treasures. William Lee's genetic map was in a secure database on New Terra, waiting for someone to stumble on the information. Wait, New Terra was behind this experiment? Nick spearheaded the project, but it does seem New Terra may have been involved. I have difficulty accessing their systems due to the range, so my information is limited to what I could pull out of the damaged files from the Nyx lab. Whether someone leaked or sold the information to Nyx, or New Terra knowingly provided it, I'm not sure. What do we know about the skill set this Brennan asshole possesses? Very little. As I said, I found some information about both Brennan and William, perhaps enough to weave together a loose picture of what Brennan might be capable of. William's skills mostly align to a queen rank, which means he possessed abilities that align to multiple other ranks. He was said to be so adept at sight-based skills, he was unable to tell the difference between past, present, and future. He was tormented by ghosts of past events or future events, or events far removed from his location.
That's right, I forgot about the ghosts. It's been so long, I was like, what was his thing we were dealing with? The ghosts! Yes, the ghosts. Okay.
He would speak or interact with people and objects no one else could see, as if completely displaced in time himself. He also had a skill that has yet to appear on Arcalis: true telepathy.
Telepathy for Espers and Arcalis is limited to projection of some emotions and occasionally vague mental images. Espers lack the focus and ability to transmit actual coherent thought in the form of linguistic communication, and are unable to read minds or communicate in this way. It is possible to scan the memories of unconscious individuals, and even the newly dead, and obtain information from them in this way. Though in regards to scanning the memories of the dead, it must be done shortly after death before the brain degrades too severely to recall information. Attempting to enter the mind or read the mind of a conscious person is dangerous for all involved for most Espers, resulting in lingering telepathic bonds, trauma, or brain damage. Right?
Is that even possible? According to the records, it is. Are you saying this clone is a telepath? I'm unsure of that. Because of the constant assault on his mind from the thoughts of others, as well as the constant visions, William's telekinesis and other abilities were wildly unstable. He never learned to control them, and, unfortunately, seems to have died young.
No, William! Don't tell me this, Kesa! No! Oh no, sweet William.
Brennan, on the other hand, seems to have precise control of his abilities. Correct. William Lee died young, but they sure as hell made sure his DNA was preserved, didn't they? Why doesn't that surprise me? Indeed. And Nyx got their hands on it somehow. They were able to use that information to create a clone.
A clone that was also imprisoned in a lab, just like his original host.
How did he get out? Do we have more details on that than just an accident? I'm unsure. They exercised extreme caution with him due to the scope of his abilities. All I could find out about his escape is what we already know. There was a power surge that knocked out their systems and gave him a window to escape, because his psi inhibitors ceased functioning for a moment. They had to have had backup systems. Perhaps the backup systems went down, or else he only needed a few seconds. Either way, some of the other test subjects went with him. Others escaped and went their own way. There was one more thing I uncovered about Brennan. Ugh, there's more? I learned that during his stay at the lab, Brennan began to exhibit king-rank abilities, just as Morgan observed. They called him the Fisher King based on Earth mythology, a figure who could revive the dead.
So does that mean Deimos and Sylvia did die, but he was able to bring them back? Because... oh, my brain. I'm also, like, realizing the color of the eyes is very similar to William now that I think about it. I'm just like... my mind still hasn't recovered. I need to lock in and, like, chew on that later. Otherwise, I'll never get through this.
Revive the dead? It seems Brennan could revitalize people using the nanosystem. Somewhat. The revived people in their experiments weren't exactly... whole. They could function independently, but their memories and personalities were destroyed. None of them ever spoke a word.
Okay. Interesting.
If Brennan's connection to them was severed, they would fall into a coma-like state, and eventually die. His control of the living seems to also utilize the nanosystem in some fashion to establish some sort of mental link. The story we learned from Rory aligns to everything I could uncover on my own. It seems like Brennan established at least a partial connection to Rory, but wasn't able to maintain it, allowing him to go his own way. But Brennan somehow re-established the connection again back in New Albion. So it seems he was monitoring him even from that far away.
Then why hasn't he re-established his connection with me? He clearly has the range. He only tried to take me the one time, and not since then.
That's a good point, actually. He also hasn't made another attempt at Rory that we're aware of. Certainly not a successful one.
It seems strange he went for Jack and not me last night, given that he's already tried to take me once.
What you and Rory both have in common is that the connections were deliberately severed. Jack as well now. Previously, Rory's link appears to have been weakened, but not severed, which may have allowed him to re-establish the connection. That's no longer the case. Then it's possible he can't re-establish severed links, but can regain control if the link is only weakened.
That seems likely.
But why would that be the case?
It's difficult to come up with a working hypothesis, knowing how little we do about his ability.
Should we make sure that Terra's still severed, by the by? Just, you know, to be safe.
But it could be a nano-oriented defense mechanism. His control of the system is like a virus in a way. Perhaps the nanites adapt and create ways to keep him out once the invasive psi has been removed. But that's just one option. It might not even be the nanites. If the original William Lee was a telepath, it's possible Brennan is as well. For all we know, he's only using the nanites as a catalyst to establish a long-distance mental link. We know almost nothing about telepathy. Maybe a mental link is a one-time thing. Once it's gone, it's gone.
We can theorize all we want, but what we need is an actionable plan to find our people and get them back. None of this helps us do that.
Veli's right. It's good to know what we might be up against, but we need something that helps us locate Rowan and the others.
It's tough to find them when we have to do it manually. He's using the labyrinth, so if we could find his access point, we might be able to catch up above ground where it's safe to deal with him. Unfortunately, the one time we had a bishop look around, her brain was almost scrambled by a mind bomb. As I understand it, your girlfriend has the remarkable ability to shield herself from said mind bombs. One mind bomb. She shielded herself once, and still took damage. She's all we've got. I want her to look around. No way. We can't risk... I believe Veli is right, Jack. We can't continue to try to canvass a massive area on foot, and Morgan has the best defenses of anyone here. But it wasn't good enough. She still got hurt last time!
I was able to repair the damage.
It's not about if you can repair the damage. It's about the fact that she got hurt at all. You may not want to risk your girlfriend, but some of us have already lost people we love. If you want a less emotional reason, she's the only one that can sever this guy's links when he takes someone over. Do we really want to risk losing that? Great. Let's keep her locked up safe in a tower while we lose everyone else for good. Sounds perfect. You have no...
I cleared my throat softly and they all looked my way. If anyone wants me to do anything, they need to ask me, not speak as if I'm not here. Or as if I'm obligated to do something because someone else decided for me.
That's what I'm saying!
I shut my eyes, running my teeth over my lower lip as I let out a sigh. That means you also don't get to decline for me, Jack. If you intend to discuss my involvement in the situation, you might want to involve me in the actual conversation instead of talking around me.
It shouldn't be a discussion at all. We aren't going to throw anyone under the bus. And you don't have to sacrifice yourself for anyone, Morgan. So we're just throwing everyone else under the bus. Sacrificing others to protect our little newbie queen because her abilities are just so special.
Jack froze, and it was obvious Veli hit a raw nerve there. The act of sacrificing some in order to protect one. His jaw worked furiously. Then he whirled around and stormed off without a word. I suppose it was better than throwing a punch. Always affectionate. But there was no way I could watch him leave like that. Jack! I cast a frustrated look at Kesa before I jumped up to follow him. I mean, I don't know why you're giving a glare to Kesa, because Kesa was just kind of on standby during that whole thing. I caught Veli's glare as I left, but he'd have to wait for now. I knew he was worried about the person he loved. But so was I, and I couldn't let Jack walk away like that. As expected, Jack retreated upstairs and didn't stop until he reached our room. I was 10 steps behind him when he slammed the door hard enough I thought he would split the frame. When I went in, he was standing on the far side of the room, a hand to his face. His shoulders tensed when I entered, but he didn't look at me.
Why?
His voice broke when he tried to speak. He was struggling to compose himself. I went to him immediately, wrapping my arms around him.
Why can't I ever protect the people I love? Why does someone always have to be sacrificed?
I won't sacrifice myself, Jack. This isn't the same.
It's not fair that you have to do the dangerous job just because you're a queen rank.
I'm not going to throw myself recklessly into harm's way. Can't you believe in me a little?
Believing in someone doesn't mean they always come back.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just looking around. I caught his face in my hands, surprised at the raw pain I saw in his eyes. Look, Tara took one of those mind bombs head on, and Celeste was able to save her too. Even if something happens, I'll be fine.
You don't know that, and you shouldn't have to subject yourself to that.
I don't have to, but it's the right thing to do. Just like how you worked yourself to the bone searching for answers, and even got hurt doing it.
I didn't want that for you.
I didn't either. But this situation isn't in our hands anymore. Look, when I was listening to everyone down there, I had an idea. Instead of trying to look around and shield myself at the same time, I'll let Veli search around and I'll shield him. Part of the reason it's easy to stumble into mind bombs is that if you're busy looking for, say, a person, you can't also watch out for attacks. If Veli searches for Rowan and I search for traps, I'll be able to spot them in advance and warn him before either of us encounters them.
Morgan, Psy doesn't work that way. Shielding Veli's physical body won't do any good. You have to shield his mind, and probably his entire sphere.
I think I can do it. One thing I've learned from your sister is that using Psy is as much about thinking outside the box as it is about utilizing known techniques. Sylvia accomplished unusual things because she thought in unusual ways. Besides, when I severed Brennan's connection to you, I did it partially by shielding you with my Psy. I think I can do the same thing to Veli. At the very least, we have to try.
I don't want you to risk it.
I understand it's easier being the one doing the risking than being the one watching. But I think they're going to need me if they want to succeed.
I need you too.
I can't sit back and do nothing.
No.
I'm going to help them.
I know.
He hugged me tight.
Please be careful. Please.
Of course I will.
No unnecessary risks.
Definitely not. I leaned up and gave him a gentle kiss. Nothing is going to happen to me. Please believe me. He let out a shuddering breath, pressing his forehead to mine for a long time.
I'll try.
I wasn't sure he believed me, but we still went back down to share my idea with the others. Veli, like Jack, was skeptical at first, but while the others worked to clear out the lobby to get rid of distractions, I explained in detail. His problem with my idea was the same as Jack's. Mental shields weren't the same as shielding someone's body. I agreed with that. The mind bomb infiltrated a person's Psy first, then their mind. And even if I had his mind shielded, if the mind bomb came into contact with his sphere, he'd still take damage, the same way I had the first time around. Shielding someone's sphere would be a new application of Psy, one we weren't sure would work, but we had to try it. I would shield Veli's entire sphere so that his Psy never came into contact with the mind bomb in the first place. While he searched for the missing people, I'd be focused on any nearby concentrations of Psy that could be a threat. I would be aware of them at least a few seconds before they hit. I could retract my Psy quickly, something he'd sense right away, and that was how he'd know to retreat. I would focus on avoiding or blocking the mind bomb. Veli would never come into contact with it at all. It put me on the front line, but I was confident I could handle it. Veli was doubtful, but what else could we do?
At the very least, working together seemed to have the highest probability of success. And he couldn't deny he had way more experience searching for things within his sphere than I did. After a tense discussion, with Jack lurking nearby looking ready to murder someone, Veli agreed. We finally settled down to get started. I just hoped it worked.